Hello, this is the JServer channel again. Got another build video. It's just my Glacial Cascade cold crit witch. I'll load in here. I'll show you what I do. At the moment, I've just started using haste actually. We'll come into the auras in a second. I've got Glacial Cascade, obviously, arc for shock stacks, so I can generate shocks. And I also have Val Arc, which is in the same item. I have two arcs and then Life Leech and Prolif because I want the shocks to proliferate. Then I have Glacial Cascade in with Power Charge on crit, increased critical strikes, Prolif, and Life Leech. When I had a 4 link, I didn't have Life Leech, and as soon as I got the 5 link and I got the Life Leech, it was such an improvement. If you gonna make this build, I think the 5 link's kind of the way I've built it is kind of essential. I don't know how you'd get enough sustainability on your life without using a life leech on, at least on something. So I don't know, suggestions on that, because then I could put a more damaging gem in there instead of life leech. I have Enduring Cry to generate endurance charges. I used Divinarius for added damage because it uses spell damage, crit strike chance, and then it has 10% increased radius of area skills, and this is an AoE skill, so it gets bigger the more AoE you have. So I've taken a Divinarius for the two things I said, and I've also taken some area of effect in the tree. I know Divinarius isn't essential, it's not as essential as the 5 link by far. This knife here that I'm using, it gives you a better crit chance, it's got better crit rolls and it's got a worse spell damage roll, but you can easily get one with, because the Divinarius is only 40% implicit crit chance, whereas a Platinum Chris or some other knives have got 80% implicit. So even though it's got a 90% roll there, this one's only got 70% and still has more. It just has less spell damage and no AoE, but you can get one with a better spell damage roll and no AoE and it's still good. You don't really need the AoE on there, especially since you could switch out one of your links and use increased AoE on Glacial Cascade, and it would probably be more AoE than having that. I'm not doing that because I've got enough now that I'm feeling quite comfortable with it. Stats to look for on gear will be life, obviously. Actually, before I start on that, I should say I've got curses and auras. The curses are Frostbite, which is what I use all the time, and then if I'm in a group I'll use Elemental Weakness because not everybody does cold damage, but most people do some kind of elemental damage. And if I see someone cursing with vulnerability, then I'll just attempt to not curse them, even though most of my curses are actually pretty huge and it's hard for me to avoid. That's thanks to the AoE increase and because I've leveled them up quite a lot. I use auras wise, I use Determination, Clarity. I used to use Vitality, but I just picked up a haste just a couple of minutes ago. So I've started putting that in because it gives you cast speed, which is something I really want, basically. Because the more times you can cast it, the more times you will have a chance to get a crit. And with Power Charge on crit, you want crits as often as possible, so you get power charges, so you get more crits, so you get more power charges, or maintain your power charges. I can run pretty much any purity. I've got the 3 purities in a 4 link with a reduced mana, so if I ever go into say I'm in the docks now and I was a bit lower life and I was lower level, then I would just put Purity of Fire on and I'd have a lot of resist to fire. So if I do a map with a mod that's got increased damage of a type, then I can just switch out, say haste, switch it out for a Purity of Fire or Purity of whatever. I've also got Tempest Shield and Arctic Armor. I always use Arctic Armor and I never use Tempest Shield really, I just use it to get the extra block chance if I'm feeling a bit weak. Arctic Armor, it does show up as being supported by reduced mana, but I don't think it actually works. I don't think it does anything to reduce anything. I just think it shows up with an R because it runs on mana, but it doesn't actually do anything because I've looked at it with and without and it doesn't seem to make any difference to the numbers. But yeah, Arctic Armor's got flat reduction to fire damage, flat reduction to physical damage, which helps with obviously defending against physical attacks, but also there's a physical portion of Glacial Cascade, and that means basically it does some cold damage and some physical damage. So if you get a physical reflect mob, you can still be hurt with it, but it seems like the Arctic Armor that I've got now and the armor I've got and having the power chart, the endurance charges from Enduring Cry, seem to not even really notice it, especially with the leech that I'm doing. And that seems to pretty much cover it, I think. Obviously, I use the determination for more armor, clarity for more mana regen, and then I switch the other auras as I feel. Gear wise, the stats that I'm valuing on gear, obviously life, because I'm a life based character, 3.2k life. Resists, because everyone needs resists, and then getting energy shield or mana or cast speed are all the things I want. Also mana regen, but that kind of ties into mana. This ring is just basically a mana ring. It's got 25 int, which gives you mana, 53 mana, which gives you mana, and a mana regen rate of 59%, which is pretty high for one of the highest rolls that I've seen, or owned, I should say. I don't know how high they go. A little bit of rarity is nice, I think, but I would value other stuff over rarity, like resist and stuff if you need a resist. But if you're swapping out a resist you've already got loads of and you can switch it for rarity, I would do. I think I'm on 30 something percent. Yeah, 32%. But that's just from the gloves, basically. I've got life, rarity, and mana on the gloves, and energy shield as well, which is more mana because of Eldritch Battery, which I'll go into the tree in a minute. And then, obviously, more resist on there, more life. Here I've got move speed on boots, which I really value. That's another reason I wanted haste, is because it lets you run slightly faster. I like to run fast, I like to be able to get out of the way of things. And then the Divinarius is obviously it's got the AoE bonus, it's got the spell damage, and the crit strike chance. Alright, passive tree. I've got basically a bunch of life, which is, I went straight to the Templar side to get the life, but I first went via static blows. So I started with arc because I was initially going to make a lightning witch. Went up here, straight to static blows, then down this way through this life, through this armor and energy shield, and then got this life. And that gives you access to pretty much everything on this side. Like, it gives you access to the amplify node for the AoE, gives you access to some more life, it gives you access to power charges, endurance charges, elemental damage, crit strike chance, elemental adaptation for more defense, aura nodes. It gives you everything just going that way. Like, you can pretty much, whenever you need whatever it is you need, you can pretty much pick it up once you've got to about here. And I took these life nodes off, and also if you go in that way, it gives you access to these strengthen dex nodes. If you're really sort of lacking strength or dex, you can pick one up. I'd recommend getting this node pretty early. I didn't realise how really strong it is, but it really helps with mana regen. It's 20% maximum mana, 20% increased mana regeneration rate, and then 20 intelligence, which, because we've got Eldritch Battery, which converts energy shield to mana, basically gives us 2 mana things. 2 intelligence gives 1 mana, and 5 intelligence gives 1% energy shield, but since both those are mana for us, we're getting more mana than we usually would from that intelligence and from that node in general. Then I got the cast speed, because I've said before cast speed is really strong for this build. And then more reduced mana stuff, life, and the crit chance up there. The crit chance there, they came in last. Getting the power charges last as well. I think it's probably actually more beneficial to get a higher base crit than it is to get the power charges. Like, before the power charges, you would get the higher crit, because you're not going to get any if you're not critting. I mean, I've got like 20% chance to crit, and I seem to be able to reliably generate the charges, but it'd be nice if it was a bit quicker. Yeah, I could come down here for that, but I'm probably just going to get those 2 crit nodes there, and some point maybe I'll get this last power charge, but it's getting towards the end of the build for me now. Like, I'm not really going to play loads into like level 8 into the 80s or anything. Yeah, it's pretty much a solid base for any sort of spellcaster build or spell crit build at all, really. I mean, if you don't take the crit, then that gives you like a few more points to use, getting more life, getting more spell damage or whatever, or getting an element damage that you want. Because I haven't taken any elemental stuff apart from 3 elements, like all increased elemental damage. But you could just take out these 3 crit nodes, take out the power. I'd want that because of the mana, so you take out the crit nodes and put them into like an elemental damage or something if you wanted. But yeah, it seems like a pretty solid base. I'll probably use this build as like a basis for another build at some point. Yeah, that pretty much covers it, I think. Like, leveling method was just up here to get them, out there, around, static blows, back around here. That's like your enabling side, and get all that, and then straight up to Eldritch Battery once you've got that, and then down there, and away you go. One thing to note is that Getting increased flat mana will also increase your mana regeneration rate, because it generates based on a percentage of your total mana. It says like, alright, you're getting 13 mana regen per second or whatever, because this is how much maximum mana you've got. So when you scale up your mana regeneration rate, it scales up that number. And when you get flat increase to mana regeneration, such as from Clarity, that says it regenerates 20.8%, 20.8 mana per second. That's added to your original number and then scaled by percentage nodes. So the more you have, the more those two numbers add up to, and the better it is, basically. So just getting, say this didn't have any regen on it, just getting 20% increased maximum mana and a bunch of int would give you quite a lot of mana regen per second. So having a high mana total is just as important as having a high mana regeneration multiplier. That pretty much covers it. I could run around in the docks a little bit, sort of freeze some things up. It works fairly well, this build. I've played like level 68 maps I think so far, just trying to sort of see what I can do, like the capabilities are. Seems pretty good. Seems pretty solid. Yeah, did I just click that? But here it's just the one I created doesn't really show you the freeze locking capability it has with higher health enemies. It just sort of creates and kills everything, but yeah, I'll find a big pack and then maybe it'll, what's the exit? Find a big pack somewhere. Yeah, this'll do. Press everything, and then see everything's just locked in place. Obviously you keep the damage up whilst it's locked in place, and then you proc another freeze as it's going. And obviously with this curse, the Frostbite curse, it's a lot more likely to freeze because you have an implicit chance to freeze whether you crit or not. But, yeah, that's pretty much the long and short of the build. If you got any suggestions and stuff, let me know in the comments and that. I'll link the build tree in the description, and then yeah, comment away, and thanks for watching.